Okay, so I have decided to recently stop following, um, and I don't know how much I'm going to be watching anymore, the T channel, Jen Love. She included a clip of Jaclyn Hill's boyfriend being interviewed, and one of the podcast hosts or whatever talk show whatever hosts asked him, he's like, where do you draw the line, because like, where do you draw the line with Bill Cosby and all the other stuff. Thing is Jaclyn Hill and I've actually worked manufacturing, and sometimes major mishaps happen. It's just part of the work. You do your best to minimize those, you do quality checks, all kinds of stuff, but things slip through the cracks. It's just part of it. And yeah, so as far as that goes, you know, comparing her to a sex offender, rather, and I refreshed myself on the Bill Cosby situation because for personal reasons, I knew it all happened, but I kept I didn't keep insane track over it because I just didn't really want to think about any of it. Um, I knew it got overturned and he got released, and then it was apparently on a technicality. I didn't really follow that trial too closely. Um, that doesn't mean he didn't do it. He still got convicted to begin with. His lawyers found a little loophole and got the guy off. Um, but regardless, he was a convicted sex offender. He got off on a technicality. Um, so comparing her to that is crazy. Not even in the same realm. For starters, she didn't get convicted of any crimes. She wasn't even charged for any crimes. And to rake her across that level of coals, somebody intentionally, maliciously harming another person to in order to gain control and power over them in such a sick manner, versus somebody that had a messed up manufacturing gaffe with lipsticks. That is not even in the same world. That's two different worlds. So yeah, so I mean, that, I'm sorry, but that's just crazy. I mean, to even put her in the same realm as somebody like that, when she wasn't even convicted, she wasn't even charged with a crime, let alone convicted of one. So yeah, that's a far cry. And Jen didn't really elaborate on the point he was making too hard, but the fact that she included that specific clip in her little mini documentary to begin with is concerning, because um she's trying to skew what actually happened. See, she'd become a little bit too biased, and she she's almost trying to make a criminal out of the girl, and that's not the case at all. you know um the girl made a big business mistake, and it was a big mistake. I'm not saying it wasn't. I went to school for business. I worked in manufacturing. uh yeah, it is a big mistake, but it's not the end of the world like everybody made it out to be. It was definitely, she definitely got ganged up on. She definitely got mean girled really bad. And some people, they just like to build people up to watch them fall. And I've been critical of Jen Love in the past, and yeah, I mean, I tried to remain unbiased, but you know what? I'm gonna be a little bit biased because I watched Jacqueline way back in the day, like 2013, 2014, when she was just really starting to get big. I found her right before she got real, real big. And yeah, I think I'd rather just watch Jaclyn Hill's content. You know, um, these women are playing investigator, and that's all great. But I don't know. Sometimes maybe stick to your day job. You know what I mean? Because, like, I do some investigating, financial investigating for banks for certain things with law. I mean, it's a very, very, very fickle beast, and people have rights. And, you know, you're getting into some very tricky territory there with libel and slander, even including the clip. The dude's mentioning that to begin with, getting into very tricky territory for libel and slander. Jen including the clip in her video, very tricky territory for libel and slander. She's got a good enough lawyer that's clever enough with words. Yeah, they can take it there real fast. So I'm just saying, because you're putting her in the same category as somebody that maliciously had intent to hurt people. Jaclyn Hill did not go into that. I mean, regardless of what happened, I don't think anybody in their right mind, and I don't think she did, went into that maliciously wanting to fuck her product and her name and her business up. You know, that's absurd. She didn't do that to everybody maliciously. I think where a lot of people, but people went after her maliciously. You have to remember that. There was a lot of malice and ill intent as to why people went after her. You know, and I think a lot of people are mistaking her fuck up as malicious rather than her just being kind of irresponsible about how she handled her business. That's the real fuck up. Is she got into a big game and she handled it kind of irresponsibly. But I mean, she was young and young and dumb people do that. And yeah, I mean, you know, and the thing is like, if you go onto like the FDA recall and the manufacturing recall lists, I mean, do you know how much food gets recalled all the time? And you probably, there's a, you know, a lot of it's from Walmart, Target, Kroger, huge distributors of food. And the likelihood of you having ate that specific thing is high. And you are literally ingesting that in your body. And that is a far, far, far more grave concern than a hairy lipstick. I'm not saying it's not bad. And yeah, sure, immunocompromised people it's bad for. But, you know, them ingesting like bad cheese that was just recently recalled big time with all the big distributors like Walmart and Target and all that, that is far more dangerous for an immunocompromised person than a shitty lipstick. So you all are just, you're kind of taking it a little too far. You know what I mean? You would have to be like immunocompromised, like you have fucking HIV to the point it's AIDS, and you're lying on your deathbed and your skin's peeling off kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? So, like seriously immunocompromised. I mean, or really bad cancer or something, you know, and, yeah. So, I mean, it would just it would have to be very, very specific immunocompromised conditions. And even then, you know, I'm far more concerned about somebody ingesting bad food that has an immunocompromised position than I am then putting on a little bit of lipstick. I'm not saying it's not bad. I'm just saying, you know, if we got a real doctor to make commentary about that, I think they would say, yeah, you all took it way too far. You're grasping for straws. And that's just it. You are. I mean, you all fucking compared her to fucking an alleged and convicted, even though it was overturned, convicted sex offender. And like a million women came out. And he only got off on a technicality. So he still served many years in prison. So, I mean, you all are taking it way to left field. And, I mean, when is enough enough? I mean, she just got me to subscribe back to Jacqueline, because I mean, you just took it way too far. Because like, say a lawyer was doing that investigation, right? There is no way in hell a lawyer is taking to a judge comparing her to Bill Cosby. Let's just be real clear about that. There's just no world where that happens. And you're asking, where do you draw the line? Well, you draw the line before you even ask the stupid question, because she's not a convicted sex offender. She has never been a convicted sex offender. She has never been to jail that I'm aware of, and definitely not for anything close to that. So, I mean, you all are trying to paint her like some monster, and no wonder she can't get past it. No wonder she can't get over it, because y'all are saying this. The girl's got to be insane with trauma. You know? I mean, you just make me feel bad for her. I'm not saying she didn't fuck up, but goddamn, I mean, you just make me feel bad for her. And I know she's a zillionaire a million times over, and she did it by shilling like her ass off. But I mean, you all bought it. You know, when do you all take accountability for the fact that you all fucking bought into it? You did. And it just makes me think, like, some of these people that you all built up to that degree, I just kind of wonder the more relevant question. Did you all build her up to tear her down because you thought it would be cute to tear down the cute girl, the popular girl, because of your own inferiority complex shit? I mean, that is something very valid to ask yourselves, you know? So, you know, I think some of these T channels are just taking it way too far. You know, I mean, some people, like, a very controversial person on the chopping block all the time is Michaela, you know, and I get why. She grates my nerves too. That's a very valid person to have on the chopping block, as much as she is, because, you know, the fake accent, you know, the way she announced her divorce, and it's just like, you know how many people, 50% of marriages end in divorce. It's not like some shock, horror, awe thing, like, oh my God, you're getting divorced. You know, I mean, people saw Trouble in Paradise, you know, long before you said that. I mean, so, I mean, I just, you know, I get why she kind of catches hell. I get, like, with some of what people say and how they say it, I get why it rubs people the wrong way. And trust me, some of the stuff some of them said is just wow, wacko. That being said, you know, very few people are all bad and all good. Hardly is anybody all Mother Teresa or all Hitler. You know, that's kind of where I gauge, you know, ultimate good and ultimate bad. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just... Who is that? Oh, the tiger. I'm hungry, bud. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just, oh, hold on. Baby girl. Hey, baby. So... yeah, you just took it too far, you know? And, you know, when I initially wanted to start doing my own research and everything on Lipstickgate and all that, I've always put many major disclaimers, and those videos aren't deleted, they're just privated. I still have everything, so you're not going to misquote me. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of got really over all of it. You know, I'm just kind of sick of it. So, yeah, I mean, I've made many, many disclaimers that, you know, I'm not trying to fry her. I think she got the shit out of the stick, you know, and I don't know what it is. Women think just because they're female, they can't be misogynistic. But how you all handled her and how you all attacked her was misogynistic. It was. I'm not saying she was perfect. I'm not saying she didn't do some stupid shit or say some stupid shit or handle shit badly. But you all, sometimes when you're looking for it, it's there. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's there for real or not, if you really, really look for something, you can see something and make it be there when it really isn't. And I notice people are getting in a worse and worse habit of that. And where do you all draw the line about that? Because you just compared a girl that fucked up lipsticks to a fucking sex offender. So, no, where do you all draw the line? For real. Where do you all fucking draw the line? I mean, way too far. Way, way too far. I mean, wow. It might be time to really get a grip. Because, like, I can tell you right now, any lawyer I've ever worked for, with, or whatever, they would just say that's just crazy town, you know, to even ask the question. So, there is such a thing as stupid questions. Like people saying, when I showed a video of where I got hit by a car and I was questioning the girl that hit me, you know, people were saying I had an attitude, and it's just like, I was just hit by a fucking car, and all you can focus on is my fucking attitude. Talk about a stupid question. And I'm clearly asking questions so I can give it over to police. And I mean, you all just can't put two and two together to save your lives. So, I just don't know anymore, man. But yeah, I mean, you all just went way too far on the girl. And, you know, yeah, sure, she made a lot of money. Doing some, I mean, she was a little shady at times, but she wasn't as shady as you all. I don't see Jaclyn Hill up there comparing people that fucked up in her world to sex offenders when they're not. You know, I think that would be a much more relevant question to ask about James Charles maybe than Jaclyn Hill. You know, and the whole reason why I really got interested in Jen Love to begin with was, you know, I thought her commentary on James Charles was interesting, and I thought it was well done. You know, I feel like this was just, I felt like it was catty. I felt like there was some malice there. I think she was, you know, getting on the mean girl train, and I've seen a lot of these documentaries pop up recently, you know, and yeah, I might still go ahead and do it. I don't know, but just go ahead and count me out. Unsubscribe from Jen. And the fact that you would even take it that far. I mean, it just goes to show, you know, Jaclyn was a victim in it all too. And you all took it so far as to victim blame and shame her as well. You know, with some of it being a victim of her own naivete, some ignorance, sure. But she was also a victim of online harassment and bullying to an insane degree. And that still goes on to this day. And, you know, I kind of believe her boyfriend or husband or whatever they are, I don't know their situation. I kind of believe him when he's just like, guys, you don't even know what we go through. Like, I kind of believe him. Like I said, yeah, she's done some clear mess ups. But at this rate, when you all are comparing her to a fucking sex offender and some of the other crazy shit you all have said about the poor girl, you know, she doesn't owe you the whole truth anymore. Because, I mean, apparently, even Jen said she got a refund. You know, so apparently she did issue those refunds. And, you know, apparently she did try to make it right. You know, I mean, seems like, you know, I was only commenting on it because I was really into that scene back in the day, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it because, hindsight's 2020. I'm a much different person now. I'm very much not in that scene anymore. My life's completely changed from 11 years ago when I left all that. And yeah, I mean, you all are beyond reckless with the truth. And that's a problem. Because, like I said, if somebody wanted to sue her and then start comparing her apple to that Bill Cosby orange, a judge is going to stroke out on your ass, for starters. For starters, a lawyer would never let it get to court anyways. And secondly, you're going to have if you did get past your lawyer for whatever reason, the judge is going to stroke out on your ass. So, yeah, I mean, because it's just, wow. It just goes to the old adage, correlation is not causation. And they don't even correlate is the problem. Y'all are correlating things that don't even correlate. Y'all are just grasping at straws at this point, and it's a really bad look. Truly. And maybe sometimes just stick to your day job, because, I see a lot of very, very irresponsible investigating. And, you are asking questions, and, she put it on her video, so, she can't say that she doesn't feel in that same thread. But you don't realize how very wrong it is, especially from a legal standpoint. And, I think the more valid question is, I was just commenting on it to comment on it. I was kind of middle ground, about the whole thing. I felt like I was very neutral because I don't have an emotional dog in that fight. I really don't. I'm very neutral about it all. But, you kind of got me leaning towards Jacqueline's side of everything. Because I know how awful internet trolling and harassment is. I've been the victim of it myself. And it can be brutal. And it is some awful, hateful, nasty, brutal shit. And it can tear a fucking hole in your head. And people will always wait until you are just at your absolute lowest moment before they just take the knife and shove it in and twist it. And yeah, I mean, I felt like I was, when I talked about making a video about all of that, I felt like even when I was talking about leading up to that, I remained very neutral about the whole situation. Because like I said, I don't have an emotional stake or dog in the fight. Whereas some of these people do, directly and indirectly. And, anymore, you just got me kind of leaning towards Jacqueline. Because, I mean, no, the better question is where do you all draw the line? Why would you even ask that question to begin with? Because it doesn't even correlate, and even if it did correlate, correlation is not causation. You all need, if you're going to play investigator and wear an FBI hat on your shit, then you actually need to do just that. And you didn't. Including that clip was reckless and endangering to begin with. Because like I said, a good lawyer, they can call out libel and slander. And I mean, you're in that territory. I would suggest being far more careful. I can't give legal advice. It's just some life advice. But if you start correlating people for their mistakes up to the mistake of a sex offender, you are in some very tricky legal territory, and I would highly suggest a lawyer before you open your mouth again. Exactly. It's life advice, because I'm telling you, you're in some tricky shit. And, I would say Jacqueline's aware of those particular tea channels like Jen Love and the rest of them. Um, you know, honestly, if I were Jacqueline, I would send a cease and desist order to take the clip out. I was, I mean, a lot of things. So, because I mean, it's just absurd. At what point do you all draw the line for real? And really, you just got me leaning towards Jacqueline. There's some other people in that industry like Jeffree Star. I'm on the fence about him. I kind of lean towards what everybody says about him, but he's still such an interesting personality. There's a lot of stuff about Jeffree Star I like. Like I said, people are all rarely all bad or all good. Don't get me wrong, Jeffree Star is a character, and he's said and done some very highly controversial things. At this point, though, who hasn't? And some of his stuff is really awful. At the same time, like I was watching some of the Jeffree Nicki tutorials beef, and they were making fun of Jeffree, saying he was paid by Louis for his review. And it's just like, Jeffree does kind of have a point, though. He spent millions of dollars at Louis Vuitton. He's not gonna hype them up for a lipstick he could easily afford many times over. So I think he genuinely liked the makeup. And from what I saw on Nicki tutorials, it did look like it looked good. It actually looked good on her. So I don't know what her beef with them is. I thought the look she did with her YouTube channel, I didn't see the full look on the other channel. I thought it looked really good. And I thought it looked good on her, and I felt like she had plenty of pigment payoff. Could Jeffree be zhuzhing it up a little? Well, I mean, maybe, but I mean, it's Jeffree Star. I mean, nobody goes into it with Jeffree Star thinking he's going to be a wallflower about anything. So, I mean, you all got to start taking things with a little bit more of a grain of salt. You all are some vicious asshole mean girls. I mean, at the end of the day. And it just leads me to believe, Jeffree and Jacqueline know they're bitches, and Jen Love and some of those tea channels acting like they're such sweet little girls, and they became mean girls. They're a bitch. They became Katie, and they went from Africa to high school with it. And but that's just it, is Jacqueline and Jeffree, they kind of know they're bitches. They kind of know that about themselves. Do I think Jacqueline's as bad as Jeffree? I think she has her moments, but I mean, no. I mean, it's hard to kind of outdo Jeffree. He's definitely the Regina George of the makeup land. That's kind of where I'm at with things. Is all it did was kind of, you all got to play a little bit of devil's advocate. You all have to be neutral. You have to see things from both sides. And if it was you in her shoes, because she was built up by you all, whether you like to admit that fact or not, and you all were more than happy to jack attack everything and code this, code that, you all were more than happy to buy whatever she was shilling. And you know what? Sometimes people sell shitty things. It happens, especially when you're selling as much as she was. And the thing is like, she's actually had, humor at herself. Like when she reviewed those Morphe lipsticks and all that, she's had humor at herself about the whole thing. And, she seems like she's done some self-reflecting. I mean, whether it was forced or herself or both, whatever, y'all baffle me that you would go that far. That's dangerous. I'm really seriously concerned about how low you all are willing to go to tear somebody down. That's just way too far. y'all need a fucking reality check. Because I guarantee you, if you talk to any doctor, psychiatrist, therapist, mental health professional, and they're seeing you all attack one person that you all went out of your way to build up, and then you all are tearing her down that hard to try to compare her to a sex offender, I'm pretty sure they would probably be like, you all need a fucking reality, you all need fucking help. Um, for whatever her sins are, and this is a big reason why I'm not huge in church is, because church is a big place where sinners judge other sinners for sinning differently. And that's exactly what you all are doing. And, it is kind of a, he is who without sin cast the first stone. And I mean, I was raised by a fucking Bible school teacher, and my mom was the director of preschool at our church for years. And, she taught children for years. And, it was in a church. Preschool was off and on. And, I grew up a Christian. I am a Buddhist now. I don't consider Buddhism a religion. I consider it a mindset, a way of life, more than a religion, because, oftentimes religions tend to have martyrs. And, there's no major martyr in Buddhism. There's no Jesus, there's no Muhammad, there's no sacrificial lamb on the chopping block to spare everybody their sins and all the rest of it. I mean, religion can be more complex than that, but, that's kind of a biggie. And, I know a lot of you are Christian, more than likely. And, I grew up that way. My mom was a children's minister and preschool teacher. And I grew up in church, till I stopped going about 15, I guess, 15 or 16. And yeah, I mean, as Gandhi said, I don't like your Christians for they are so unlike your Jesus. I like your Jesus, but I don't like your Christians because they're so unlike your Jesus. That's what Gandhi said. I'm paraphrasing, but I mean, I think that's pretty damn close to what he said. I like your Jesus, I do not like your Christians because they are so unlike your Jesus. And, not that I'm comparing Jaclyn Hill to Jesus, but I'm just saying, I kind of like your all's Jaclyn on a more, when Jeffries and stuff on a more personal, and a personality level, but I do not like your makeup guru fanatics because they're so unlike your makeup gurus. So, just to kind of put things into perspective, it's not as big as Jesus, but, and I don't want to martyr her, you all went roaming on her ass regardless. So, and you all need to take accountability for that. I mean, when do you all sit down and think, and more than just, I've been a little too spicy. When do you all sit down and take accountability for the fact that, hey, I've been a mean girl, I've been an awful person, and I'm causing other people to break mentally and snap mentally because my behavior towards others' mistakes has been so out of control and extreme. I mean, she apologized, she refunded everything, she tried to move on with her company. I think the big thing that really, fucked her was the fact that it was the initial launch. If it happened a year into having her brand or 2 years into having her brand, it wouldn't have been this big. It would have been like, oh, hey guys, we had a manufacturing gaffe, we're recalling this product for now. We'll refund everybody, after everything initially launched and it launched well. you know, I think that's what was really the Achilles heel of the situation, to be honest. It wasn't the fact that she had a manufacturing gaffe so much as the fact that it was a huge gaffe on the initial launch of everything. But that being said, all of y'all were waiting to take your claws out, and you were. And you all are grasping at straws about immunocompromised people. Yes, things are in place to keep everything safe and healthy and all that stuff, and it is a concern. But like I said, go on to the FDA's website, or, I'm sure there's a million other websites and government websites where you can look up everything that's been recalled for food in the last week. And that's something you actually eat, and actually ingest in your body, and it can cause serious harm. That is a far graver concern. And, I don't see you all up in arms investigating fucking Walmart distributors and manufacturers of food and things like that. I don't see you all freaking out about that. And you should be. If you're going to freak out this hard on her, and it's all because you have the parasocial relationship. And where do you all take accountability for having the parasocial relationship to begin with? Because relationships, parasocial or not, are a two-way street, And whereas the makeup person, they kind of have to take a lot of comments that are coming in the same as a collective and address them as a collective towards everybody. Still, you have to take accountability of the fact that you're talking to another human being. And you can say whatever you want about them, but most of those people, I would imagine, have very real feelings. And, these are like, yes, queen, makeup people, there's a lot of LGBT, especially gay men in the community. And, that particular breed of gay man, they definitely wear their heart on their sleeve. They're very emotional, very in their feelings. And it's just like, you all do not take into account of the fact that you are literally addressing another human being. And it's just like, when are you all held accountable? When are you all held accountable for the awful things you're saying to another human person? And would you have the balls to say them to their face? That's an even more valid question. Would you have the balls to say all that shit to her face? Because something tells me a lot of you have social graces. Because, sweetie, trust me, I promise you, if you piss me off, I don't care where I am. I promise you about that. So, and that's not because I lack social graces. Far from it. I work in law offices. I've spent years in customer service on the telephones. They beat that shit into you, and I was raised that way anyways. But trust me, if somebody crosses a certain line with me, I don't care where we are, who you are, or what I say. Good for them. They have a little bit more tact. But, if I were her, I would be afraid of somebody coming up to me in public and freaking out on me about a fucking lipstick. And that's scary. And because I've been scared about people attacking me because I'm a very, very, very real abuse and SA victim. And that's a matter of fact in court. Like, there's no question if I was. He admitted to most of it in court. He admitted to the kidnapping, the financial abuse, the beat downs, all of it. And under oath, he admitted it to the judge under oath in court with a Spanish interpreter present. And I get it's the internet. I'm not naive. But, you know, people were asking me if I enjoyed being raped by my own boyfriend. And he was in jail at the time when the person asked me the question. He was still in jail. And it's just like, if somebody's willing to go that far with me and be so awful to me about something so awful to begin with, you know, and I've had some instances in public and otherwise where, you know, I've been scared, very, very scared for my safety and other shit. And, you know, I've had people harass me at work, gaslight the shit out of me, all kinds of crazy shit. I've been very scared for my safety. I'm getting ready to take Raider back to court about all of that. And, you know, I just, you know, I see you all, how you all are talking about her, and it's just like, I've had really, really negative, nasty, awful shit said to me on the internet, and I just don't think these T channels are getting that level of negativity and harshness coming at them. I don't think they understand what it really does to somebody and how cruel and insane and awful it really is. And you know, you all just see the personality. And I mean, you all have to start taking accountability for your parasocial relationships with people. You really do. You all have to seriously start getting a grip that, you know, there's a parasocial relationship. Relationships are two-way streets. And yes, while they might be addressing a collective and usually addressing comments, and they're, you know, when you're that big, you know, you'll see a lot of comments, and a lot of comments come in the same or similar. And if something controversial happens and you get a lot of the same comments, they're going to address the collective. They might pick some people out, but most of the time they're just going to address the mass. Because when you're that big, you can't sit down and address every single comment. And you all have a responsibility to be accountable for that parasocial relationship. And the thing is y'all are more than happy to buy Morphe by the ass load. Y'all were more than happy to do it. Because you were. And where do you take accountability for that? You all were more than happy to lap up whatever a fucking guru was offering. And the thing is I dipped out before all that shit started. I was in it when like Sigma was the big thing. And I will say this, Sigma is quality. I love Sigma brushes and I love Sigma makeup. They are a quality brand. I talk about the good old days. You know, I still have Sigma brushes. I still enjoy them. And I remember when Jacqueline was freaking out about the Sigma F80 face brush. That's all she talked about forever. Those were my Jacqueline days before she ever even got involved with Morphe. But I dipped out before Morphe came along. So, you know, I wasn't really there for all that. I had to focus on a lot of other far more important heavy life shit. And, I never really commented much on any of their videos. I was like Lisa Eldridge, Jacqueline, Kathleen Lights, Nicole Guerrero. Whatever happened to her? She was laid real low. Good for her, by the way. Seriously. But I mean, I remember when Nicole Guerrero was like the shit, you know, and she got big, and she did that thing, that line, was it Dime or something? She did something, but yeah, I mean, I never really commented too much. I was just there to watch the videos and get ideas or inspiration or, you know, learn something new or whatever. But yeah, and because, I related to them a lot, especially at the time, especially about certain things in life. Um, I just, I'm really, really, really scared for where things are going. I mean, technology has made you all not even human anymore. Like, I don't think half of the people that comment anymore are fucking really there anymore. I see people more and more, going down a path of just like complete egotistical narcissism. And I realize, when I'm working in an office with a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old, I have to realize, they've never lived their life without a fucking iPad in their hands. Whereas, I spent the first 20 years of my life without a cell phone. So, I already had that foundation where I didn't have all that in my life. I'm the last generation to have that foundation. And I just, you people are just aren't even human anymore. You all cannot think critically at all. You're just not thinking critically. And, I get it. I get caught up in some hype too. And, it's this and that. But it's just like, at what point, though, do you reel it in? I mean, seriously, you can't keep asking these people that you made famous using your money willingly. They didn't hold a fucking gun to your head. You have to remember that. Nobody held a fucking gun to your head to do it. You willingly spent your money with somebody. You have to start taking accountability. I see a lot of these channels and it's just like, sometimes it's just tearing down for tearing down's sake. And it's just like, and you think just because you just present all these facts and, all this other shit but, these particular instances are not just merely fact-based. There's a lot of feeling and emotion in this, or else you all wouldn't be coming up with some of the makeup looks you all do if you weren't full of feelings and emotions. Well, same for them. And, my particular specialty in law, I do collections and bankruptcy primarily. That's what I specialized in law. Law is a lot like medicine. You specialize. It's really straight and forward and to the point. Like, it's kind of black and white. There's rare exceptions and occasions where, feelings are considered in certain instances and things like that are considered, but those are more rare. Those are not the rule, they're the exception. Especially when you get into certain types of collections. Medical collections is probably the trickiest because you can't blame somebody for having a medical problem, So that's the one part of collections where, there's a lot of feelings because it's literally somebody's health. Somebody's got $100,000 medical bill because they had emergency surgery. They got in a horrible car wreck or something. Yeah, I mean, that's really hard to prosecute because it's a bad look for everybody because it's literally not their fault that they needed surgery or needed medicine. And at the same time, the doctors have to get paid, and it's a tricky business because everybody's feelings are involved, everybody's feelings are valid, and nobody's really at fault. Whereas, most other collections, it's pretty black and white for the most part. Especially like credit card collections, things like that. Those are very black and white cases usually. It's just straight to the point. Nobody held a gun to your head to get a credit card. Pay up. So, and that's just kind of it with you all. Nobody held a gun to your head to spend your money with that girl. you know, and you might feel duped by her, but she has every reason to start feeling duped by you all. And she, you are trying to correlate her with a fucking sex offender. You all got to start taking some accountability for the fact that you bought into it for whatever reason, and you're not buying into it now. Okay. And trust me, nobody's been more crunched by this economy than myself. It's fucking crucified me. Trust me, I didn't want to be crucified. It's not something was actively going for. But it's hurt me badly. This economy has. Ooh. Okay. So yeah, Who there? You all gotta start taking accountability for all of it. For real. You all were just going way too far. Just way too far. And I just can't sit by and, it's a fine line. Because you have to remember that people are human. And, very rarely is somebody all bad. And I just can't take it anymore. You all went too far with it. Alright. That's my piece. Yeah. So, I'm just going to wish the best of luck to Jacqueline. Because, I started my initial into everything and all of it, trying to be neutral as humanly possible, recognizing the fact that there was very major mistakes had, but I don't hate her for them. You all really genuinely seem to hate the girl and don't really actually know her. I don't actually know her. You have a parasocial relationship, exactly. And the girl lost her ex-husband, the guy that she was with through the making of her getting big. She lost her ex-husband. He passed away. I'm sure that was devastating. What the fuck? She lost her business. She lost all her credibility. She lost a lot of how she made income. She lost her level of income. And, it just reminds me of a quote I once read, sometimes it's better to just been poor your whole life than to been rich and lose it all. So, yeah. Alright, my cats are tripping. So, alright, peace everybody. I hope you all can kind of get it together and rein in some of the mean girl shit, because it's just way too far. It's way too mean girl. You all have really got to start taking accountability for, and oh, by the way, a lot of the allegations towards the lipsticks, some of it was very real, but a lot of it was proven to have been far-fetched, and people were grasping at straws for some of it to get clout and just be on the bandwagon. So, I would definitely suggest taking the FBI hat off, given the fact that she was never even charged for a crime, and, she copped up to the mistake, admitted to it, refunded everybody, and it still wasn't good enough for everybody, and you all correlated her with a sex offender that was in prison for years for it. Get a grip. At this point, it's just just fuck you. Seriously, fuck you.